Imagine a country that sells oil to China, buys weapons from America, maintains friendly relations with Russia, and still manages to host peace talks for conflicts it isn't directly involved in. That country isn't imaginary. It's Saudi Arabia. The diplomatic balancing act happening in Jeddah right now defies conventional geopolitics. As we will reveal in the next 10 minutes, Saudi Arabia's rise as a diplomatic powerhouse is reshaping global alliances in ways that will affect energy prices, security partnerships, and possibly even how the Ukraine war ends. The kingdom's diplomatic balancing act. Imagine a country that can shake hands with the United States on Monday, embrace Russia on Tuesday, and finalize deals with China on Wednesday. This isn't diplomatic fantasy. It's Saudi Arabia's remarkable balancing act that's redefining global relations in an increasingly fractured world. While most nations found themselves forced to choose sides in the Ukraine conflict, Saudi Arabia charted a different course. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, or MBS as he's commonly known, managed to maintain open channels with Washington, Moscow, and Beijing simultaneously, relationships that conventional wisdom says should be mutually exclusive. This diplomatic flexibility was on full display when Saudi Arabia hosted critical US-Russia talks in February 2025 in Riyadh, providing neutral ground for discussions about strategic stability. Just weeks later in March, the kingdom facilitated crucial US-Ukraine negotiations aimed at exploring potential peace frameworks. What makes this extraordinary is that, throughout this period, Saudi Arabia continued its energy cooperation with Russia through OPEC+, defying Western pressure to isolate Moscow. The kingdom's voting record at the United Nations further illustrates this complex position. Saudi Arabia voted to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine in the General Assembly, aligning with Western democratic values on paper. Yet behind the scenes, economic cooperation with Moscow continued virtually uninterrupted, with trade flows adapting to new realities rather than stopping altogether. Perhaps most telling was Saudi Arabia's dual-track approach to the conflict itself. While providing $400 million in humanitarian assistance to Ukraine, demonstrating concern for civilian suffering, Kingdom Holding, a major Saudi investment vehicle, simultaneously invested $500 million in Russian energy giants, Gazprom, Rosneft, and Lukoil, when these companies were facing Western sanctions. This wasn't diplomatic contradiction, but calculated balance. The kingdom's trusted position became evident in September 2022, when Saudi Arabia, working alongside Turkey, brokered one of the largest prisoner exchanges between Russia and Ukraine since the war began. This operation secured the release of 215 Ukrainian defenders of Mariupol, including commanders from the Azov Regiment, in exchange for 55 Russian prisoners and pro-Russian Ukrainian politician Viktor Medvedchuk. That both Moscow and Kiev trusted Riyadh to facilitate such a sensitive exchange speaks volumes about Saudi Arabia's unique diplomatic positioning. What appears contradictory on the surface, maintaining friendly relations with warring parties, is actually a carefully orchestrated strategy that maximizes Saudi influence. By refusing to be drawn into bloc politics, Saudi Arabia has transformed itself from merely an oil-rich kingdom into an essential diplomatic nucleus, where adversaries can meet, negotiate, and potentially resolve differences. Oil, the foundation of Saudi influence. Beneath Saudi Arabia's diplomatic finesse flows a resource so valuable it gives the kingdom veto power over global economic stability. With control of 17% of the world's proven oil reserves and daily production averaging 12.4 million barrels, Saudi Arabia serves as the liquid lever of power in the global economy, regulating its very pulse. This petroleum foundation transforms hydrocarbons into extraordinary diplomatic capital. When Saudi officials adjust production quotas, even marginally, ripple effects surge through energy markets, currency exchanges, and manufacturing costs worldwide. Their ability to influence oil's availability and price grants them outsized global influence. As global dynamics shift, so too does the kingdom's strategy. Saudi Arabia now directs more than two-thirds of its hydrocarbon exports to Asia, with China receiving over a quarter of these shipments. Meanwhile, the United States, once heavily dependent on Saudi crude, now imports just 5% of its oil needs from the kingdom. A dramatic transformation in the energy relationship that defined decades of US-Saudi relations. This eastward pivot creates both challenges and opportunities. As American energy independence grows, Saudi Arabia has cultivated deeper economic ties with China and other Asian powers, creating new avenues for influence while maintaining traditional Western relationships. The October 2022 OPEC+ decision to cut production by 2 million barrels per day illustrates Saudi Arabia's independent judgment. This move, keeping oil prices elevated during Russia's Ukraine campaign, demonstrated Saudi Arabia prioritizes its own economic interests above aligning with any single power's objectives. Within OPEC+, the Saudi-Russian partnership has proven particularly consequential. By coordinating with Moscow, Riyadh has established a counterbalance to American energy influence. This oil-based alliance allows both nations to stabilize markets according to their shared interests. The $700 billion public investment fund represents the conversion of oil wealth into long-term global influence. As Vision 2030's financial engine, this sovereign wealth vehicle transforms today's oil revenues into tomorrow's diverse investments across technology, sports, and infrastructure worldwide. With over $200 billion flowing annually from oil production, Saudi Arabia secures influential positions in global markets and industries. Vision 2030, reshaping Saudi influence beyond oil. As Saudi Arabia perfects its oil strategy, an even more ambitious transformation is taking shape. The kingdom that built its wealth on petroleum is now constructing a future where oil is just one instrument in its economic orchestra. Vision 2030, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's bold blueprint, represents more than economic diversification. It's a complete reimagining of Saudi Arabia's position in the global order. For the first time in the kingdom's history, non-oil activities constitute 52% of Saudi GDP, a fundamental shift in an economy traditionally dominated by petroleum exports. Where Saudi Arabia once relied almost exclusively on oil revenue, it now aims to achieve 6.2% growth in non-oil sectors by 2026, transforming economic diversification from distant goal to current reality. The transformation extends globally through strategic international investments. The Crown Prince has pledged $600 billion to the United States over the next 4 years, deepening economic ties with America while developing relationships with other global powers. This capital deployment creates diplomatic leverage through economic interdependence. On Saudi soil, Neom rises from the desert, a futuristic city being built from scratch that showcases Saudi Arabia's vision for creating entirely new economic engines. Meanwhile, Riyadh's landscape changes as the Sports Boulevard project, already 40% complete, transforms into the world's largest linear park, promoting healthier lifestyles while positioning the kingdom as a global tourism destination. Beyond physical infrastructure, Saudi Arabia invests strategically in technology, artificial intelligence, and quantum computing, fields that will define the next century of global power. Innovation hubs attract international experts to create knowledge economies that could eventually rival Silicon Valley or Shenzhen. This diversification serves deeper geopolitical purposes. By developing multiple economic pillars, Saudi Arabia reduces its vulnerability to oil price fluctuations while decreasing the effectiveness of potential external pressure. As Faisal Al-Ibrahim, Minister of Economy and Planning, emphasized, Vision 2030 creates unique opportunities for foreign investment, with aims to attract $100 billion annually by 2030. The kingdom now focuses on developing goods and services that compete globally, a fundamental shift from importing finished products while exporting raw materials, permanently altering its relationships with traditional partners and rivals alike. The new geopolitical broker, Saudi Arabia's regional mediation. This economic evolution has been matched by an equally significant diplomatic revolution. When Iran and Saudi Arabia announced their reconciliation in 2023, the world was shocked by the unexpected breakthrough, with China, not the United States, serving as broker. This watershed moment signaled Saudi Arabia's emergence as an independent diplomatic force, capable of pursuing peace initiatives without Western mediation. The March 2023 agreement between Riyadh and Tehran established institutional frameworks for regular leadership exchanges that continue strengthening today. This diplomatic milestone demonstrates Saudi Arabia's willingness to pursue solutions even when they diverge from traditional Western interests. This diplomatic flexibility extends beyond Iran. Since April 2023, the kingdom has created a diplomatic safe harbor for addressing the Sudanese civil conflict, conducting multiple reconciliation talks between warring factions. As recently as July 2024, Saudi officials engaged Sudan's Transitional Sovereignty Council in tense but productive discussions aimed at reviving peace talks. This approach, patient, persistent, and focused on sovereignty, showcases Saudi Arabia's distinctive mediation style. Following the eruption of conflict in Gaza in October 2023, the kingdom positioned itself at the center of reconstruction planning, hosting an emergency Arab League summit that rallied regional support for Palestinian statehood. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman declared Saudi support for a Palestinian state as firm and unwavering and non-negotiable, reflecting the kingdom's commitment to international law and multilateral diplomacy. Saudi Arabia's diplomatic outreach now includes previously untouchable contexts. Hosting Syria's interim president Ahmed al-Sharaa for his first foreign trip marked a decisive shift, signaling Riyadh's support for Syria's transitional government while helping rebuild the country's shattered infrastructure. Similarly, Saudi Arabia reactivated a $3 billion security assistance package for Lebanon that had remained frozen since 2016, a strategic move aimed at stabilizing the country while reducing Iranian regional influence. What distinguishes Saudi mediation is its commitment to non-aggression and sovereignty respect. This principled stance has allowed the kingdom to maintain dialogue with both Moscow and Kiev throughout the Ukraine conflict while preserving Western ties, respecting each nation's right to determine its own path. Conclusion: Saudi Arabia has pioneered what diplomats now call multi-alignment, a sophisticated approach that rejects the binary choices of traditional alliance systems. This diplomatic innovation allows the kingdom to simultaneously strengthen relationships with competing global powers while positioning itself as an essential mediator in international conflicts. The evidence speaks for itself. Saudi investments in the United States alone are projected to grow from $770 billion to potentially $1 trillion, while maintaining productive diplomatic channels with both China and Russia. By refusing to be confined to a single geopolitical camp, the kingdom has created a new paradigm where flexibility, economic leverage, and strategic autonomy shape international relations. World leaders visit Riyadh not just for bilateral discussions, but in recognition that new centers of global diplomacy exist beyond traditional Western capitals. Could this model permanently reshape the world order in the coming decades? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, turn on notifications, and like us to stay informed about our content.